Welcome to episode 144. Jim's here. Jim's also here with some deer, it looks like. We love that.
Texas whitetails.
Yeah, they're
stuff. Yeah.
Chunky. And Chad's here. David's here, ready. He's excited. Thank you, David. So let's do our shout outs. We'll get into it. Vetdna.com for all of your testing needs. Use code. I can't read it because we're on adult language no time. But use that code for $5 off the crypto panel at vetdna.com. Thank you, Chad, and thank you, Ralph. Sponsor shout outs. Let's see if I can do it. I didn't get any updates this week. Shane Kelley, Smelton Xotics, breeding hognose, ball pythons, some leopard geckos. He's putting some leopard geckos up on auction. Please check out Shane, Smelton Xotics, for all of your various needs. I don't know any other updates. He was very excited about the desk, though. Still very excited. Bravo Zulu Ball Pythons, veteran, woman-owned ball python breeding company. We love that. Still in school, still doing her thing. Check her out for puzzle stuff this year. Het puzzle stuff. We love puzzle here, even though I still don't have any. Bravo Zulu Ball Pythons. Still the worst sponsor shout-outs ever. Probably going to get way too many Dominican Red Mountain Boas because of her. Thank you, Eileen. Bravo Zulu Ball Pythons. Stoneage Ball Pythons, Justin Brill. I tried to get him on the Hillsborough show. Shout out, but he's on a different schedule now than Andrew, so we'll have to touch base with him soon. But he is one of our Pacific Northwest boys, breeding lots of clown pied stuff. Very cool. Check him out. Stoneage Ball Pythons. Andrew from Powerhouse Pythons, he breeds ball pythons, leopard geckos, sells frozen rodents, go for cocoa. He's getting into Stimson's pythons, and who knows what's next for Andrew. He's a whole operation now. He should have lots of clutches and lots of eggs of all kinds of things. We love that. Thank you, Powerhouse Pythons. Great family steaks. There are DG VPI combo family from Alabama. Mostly ball pythons, but they also have Sansania, and they have lots of clutches coming out in all of those respective projects. Please go find them on Morph Market and follow, or on Instagram. Thank you, Gray Family Snakes. Chris at BNS Reptilia should have a megaton of colubrids coming up. Some boa stuff, some ball python stuff, some blood stuff. We love that. And he'll be at Oaks Reptile Show on May 4th at the Greater Philadelphia Expo Center. Thank you, Chris at BNS Reptilia, for being our most diverse collection sponsor. We love that. It's my favorite. And now I think I did it. And I don't think I said no bad words. Oh, brother. Let's see what chat's doing. Chris is here. Tara's here. Adrian's here. Lilac Hall is here. Chris is here. What's up? Okay. Can you give me like a 2-minute elevator pitch? Because you've been in the hobby for a long time.
Sure.
Of your business, like what species you keep?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I've been doing this I've been breeding snakes since around 1997. I first started with orange Texas rat snakes that I got from Lloyd Lemke right after he passed. I bought them from his wife, and I started doing that then. And then I was really involved with a lot of corn snakes and king snakes and hognose snakes and Russian rat snakes and all kinds of Tamaulipan rat snakes, mountain kings, all that. And then eventually I've kind of migrated into the ball python deal. And at the same time, I kind of broke into the blackheaded pythons and womas, the Aspidaites too. So anyway, right now, the only colubrids I work with right now are Harris County, Texas localities. I call them lemon speckled king snakes. They're beautiful, beautiful snakes. I've got those. I have a large assortment of ball python morphs, and I like working with the ball pythons. I'm big into the ultramel. I produce a lot of ultramel pieds. Everything I have has ultramel in it, and I love that. I'm working with the clowns, and I've just started desert ghost stuff, and it just evolves. And so, and then on the black-headed pythons, I've been working with those since 2003. So I've been doing that for a long time. I've got a pretty good collection of Swiss line blackheads and a lot of another line, basically, of axanthic black-headed pythons. And so I'm working with those, and I've got maybe 5 or 6 clutches in the incubator right now. So we'll see how that shakes out. It's they're fun to work with. I attend shows here in Texas. I've been to NARBC Tinley Park way back when they first started. I went up there with colubrids, and so I do the Herps network here, Herps shows. And,
very good.
Yeah, so I pretty much do 10 shows a year roughly, and that's where I do most of my sales. And sales are good, sales are bad. You know how it goes.
Yeah. So you do Austin? Which other Herps shows do you do?
Which other ones?
Yeah.
I do basically Bryan College Station. I do the Conroe show here in Houston area. I do Austin, and what else? That's pretty much. Oh, and I do the little one in South Houston, Rosenberg area. Every once in a while, you catch me go to Louisiana, go over to Slidell and hang out over there. But pretty much kind of stay around the neighborhood here in Texas.
Not specifically, but what city do you live closest to?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I live northwest of Houston.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've never seen you like way up here. Because I don't know, don't come up here.
Well, I used to come up there once in a while. Probably when I did the corn snakes and colubrids, I'd be sitting there looking at all these animals I had, and I said, "Man, I need to make some money. Where can I go to a show?" And there's one up in Oklahoma, and so I'd get in the car and just drive up to Oklahoma and set up, and sometimes it was good. And I've been there a couple times. I don't remember exactly where it was. Maybe Tulsa. Somewhere around there. And but normally I try not to go that far. I've been to Daytona a couple times way back when, 2000, 2006, and I'm hoping to get into the March Tinley show. My fingers are crossed there. I'm on a waiting list, and we'll see what happens.
You should, in my opinion, you should get in. Because you're breeding blackheads.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's like something different, right?
Did you stop by my table in Dallas a couple weeks ago, or did you come by? I know you were at your table, kind of hunkered down, and I didn't know if you got around to walk around.
No, I am a bad person. I'm sorry. I was trapped. I was
you were singly by yourself.
Yeah, so I did have people who would come watch my table for like a second to go to the bathroom, but I felt bad to like wander off for even like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I
had to look for you on Saturday morning. It took me so long to find you because I made 2 or 3 efforts to go down the long hallway, and you were kind of in between, the aisles or something like that. And I finally found you because I wanted to say hi, because I do enjoy listening to your podcast.
Thank you. Yeah, I've always admired your display because I didn't vend the first 2 times, and I've always been like, ooh, and taking pictures and stuff. So like, one of these days, I'll trick my husband into doing the next Dallas, hopefully, and then he knows how to sell things or whatever, and then I'll have more time to walk around.
Sure, yeah.
That's my dream.
Yeah. How was Denver?
It was awesome.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Whose show is that? Whose show is that?
Brand new show.
Oh, it is?
Circuit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who's the promoter?
So Troy from Best Dressed Balls and Nick from Sloan Morphs. Reptiles? Okay. I'm sorry. There are 2 of them that are almost the same name. Reptiles? Okay. They just decided to do it because Denver needs a big show, and the
Right.
reptile nation wasn't coming back, and they
Ah,
did great.
wow. Was it right downtown or outside of
No, it was in Castle Rock,
Castle Rock? Okay, sure.
but it's still pretty bougie, so I was in.
Right.
I'm in. They
It's
got
a you
money.
took a that's a long trip for you. Was it 7 hours?
8.5 plus stopping breaks.
Sure. Gas and
But
food and all that.
it was the best ever.
I don't know,
Literally.
maybe I have to try that.
Yeah, it was. Lit- for different people, the amounts of money don't matter. But like for me, selling $80 corn snakes, it was the highest revenue show I've ever done,
That's great.
ever.
That-
Even versus like COVID time
Right.
shows. So
That'll give you a good recharge.
yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, shows are pretty good actually.
Well, I like to go there and just talk to people, and that's what I enjoy about it. If I sell some snakes at a show, I'm happy.
Yeah.
But even if I don't, I always get some information or meet somebody new or talk to someone that may be interested in, say, a blackhead later on down the line.
Mhm.
And usually those people come back and buy from me a year later or so. So
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's a good way to look at it. It's sort of a struggle when it's like 8 shows in a row where
Right.
you're selling a couple snakes, but you're basically selling a snake to give the money to the hotel.
Right,
And then
exactly.
you're like, what am I doing here, brothers and sisters?
You're trading dollars.
Yeah, it doesn't feel very nice because it costs
Yeah.
me money to make that snake and take care of it.
Yeah. Well, the tough part about it is when you go to 4 or 5 shows in a row like that, you get pretty well downtrodden on the whole thing, and
Mhm.
and you're like, I can't, I'm not going to go back, and there's got to be a better way, and there probably is, but I think it's a balance. Back when I was selling on kingsnake.com
Mhm.
and I was going to shows, I was taking a lot of pictures and advertising on King Snake, and I was selling snakes on King Snake and selling snakes at shows. And I sat down and looked at it one day, and it was about 50-50, all my sales.
Mhm.
From the King Snake, and the other ones came from shows, and that was good. I haven't really done that much. I advertise every once in a while on Morph Market, but
Mhm.
I am so busy here taking care of these animals, and I have to dedicate just a certain weekend or something like that just to take pictures and get the
Yeah.
right pictures and set up.
It's its own grind being like
It's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I just like, since my husband doesn't do animal care, if I go away for a weekend and it's not very financially successful, then it's like double whammy because then I have to
Yeah.
like catch up on chores, which is fine. The animals are fine, but we're still playing catch up. And it was a break even weekend, and then I'm like,
Yep.
and then he yells at me. He's like, "Woman, why are you still going to those dumb shows?" But
Well,
since this one was good, it feels nicer to catch up on shows or catch up on chores because you're like, oh, it doesn't matter because I sold 37 corn snakes. Who cares?
yeah. Well, I'm waiting for is like when I go to a show, especially like the Dallas show up there, NARBC, that place is packed with thousands of, hundreds of breeders.
Mhm.
And what I wish we could do is, how Morph Market has that genetics thing where you just, you has all the genes in there and you can just click on whatever genes. And I wish there was a thing with the shows where all the breeders would kind of say what genetics they're bringing. And
Mhm.
so, all I need to do is I'm looking for the puzzle gene or
Mhm.
anything else like that. I can just do a search for puzzle and I go, oh, that's number 314 over there. He has puzzle stuff. I'm going to go see him.
Morph
But I
Market
have to
kind of
walk
has
around
this
and walk
feature.
around.
I don't know if you Morph Market kind of has this feature. Like if you say you're going to a show, you can
Okay.
mark animals as also going to the show.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And so like
Oh.
you can kind of look through somebody's inventories, animals that are going to the show. But it requires a lot of steps. Like the animals already have to be on Morph Market.
Yep.
And then you have to mark them as going to the show. And
Yeah.
then someone would have to look at that. But if everyone did it, then yes, that would be.
It would be nice.
Yeah.
But everybody have to do it. And there'd have to be like this app that everybody had that says whatever show you're going to and who's bringing what. It could be really, really complicated.
Yeah. That's why I'm like.
Anyway, that's kind of a dream.
It'd be nice if people made like, I don't know, leagues of friends. Like if all of the rare python vendors at the show were like, we're all friends. So we are going to cross promote. Blackhead pythons are here. Ring pythons are here. White-lipped pythons are here. And we're all friends and we all know our stuff's good. And so we will cross promote our location and species availability or whatever. And so then like, because you probably have similar customers.
Yeah.
Hypothetically, right?
Right.
So, but your customer may not be, a snow corn snake customer. Like that's probably a different person.
Yeah.
And then it would be like less burdensome to make a record of it. I don't know how to coordinate all the ball python people. So
yeah, that would be hard. Start small, work big.
Right. That's what I'm thinking about doing. A stamp rally. I don't know if you know what I've talked about it a little bit, but it's where like So like Snake Discovery does a treasure hunt where you go to 10 vendors and if the person completes it, they get a prize.
I see.
But I was gonna do but they're always like Cold Blooded Cafe, Zoo Med, like the big brands. But I was like, well, who cares about them? 5 or 6 breeders make people walk to each one for a stamp so we can get like specific stamps. Yeah. And if they go and talk to each one and at least visit their table, and hopefully they're like, I don't know, friends. I'll give them a prize. I don't care. A sticker or something. Who cares? 10% off coupon at anybody's table. Yeah, just to get people to walk to the back of the venue.
Exactly. Yeah. It just gets them, it's forcing them to go, in a certain direction or to
John's go in. All right. Yeah, because there's a lot of like kind of dead zones in that building, I think, in my opinion. Where like you're like, why did that person not do that good? It's just because people didn't even make it to the back of the building. And Brian said he's moving to the next thing over.
Yeah, if you heard he's gonna expand it, I guess. Yeah.
I think they're just moving into that room for now, but they could do both rooms one day. And I was like, it's gonna be huge.
It's gonna be huge, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was different this time for sure up there. But Arlington was a beautiful location.
Mm-hmm. Felt very safe.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah. So did you, can you talk about applying for the display permit?
Sure. What I did was I got the information from Brian. I told him I wanted to try to bring some blackheads and how could I do that? And he said, get in touch with Phil Goss at USARK and he'll be able to help you out. So Phil, basically I got in touch with him and he emailed me a form that came from the Dallas animal control people. And that form was basically a form that you filled out. It said what your location and address was going to be, and then what kind of animals were you bringing and how many. So I had to, fill out the location for the show, and then I brought 5 black-headed pythons with me, and basically they wanted to know how long were they, and they wanted to know what the coloration of them was, and they wanted to know the sex, and they wanted to know the age. And so, basically I measured them, they're 3 feet long, and these are all males, and they have a big dark black head, the inky head, and then they have some kind of,
Are they trying to like get that information because they, if a tiger comes in, they want to know if it's a big tiger or a little tiger?
They want to know if it's a tiger with an X on the back or on the sides.
Yeah, like some distinguishing mark. That's wild. Yeah. Okay. Can you imagine doing that for Kenyan Sambo?
I did some research before I got in touch with Phil, and I looked at it, and some of the things I read, you could get a permit on there through the Dallas, whatever it was, but it was like $1,000 and things like that. And I said, if I have to pay $1,000 for a permit to display my animals for 2 days, I'm not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But it turns out there's no fee associated with it. And then the animal control people were really good. They started contacting me a couple days before the show just to make sure everything was going to be okay. And what was the last thing they had asked me? I can't remember what it was, but it was just another small detail they wanted to know. And then they showed up early on Saturday morning, and I happened to be walking around looking for you. And they texted me and said, we're at your table right now. Can you come by and see us so we can, talk? And so I said, sure. And so I went back there, and there's 3 or 4 ladies there, and then they're all in their uniforms, and they're very nice. And they basically said that they had looked around the show and seen the people who had applied for permits and seen their displays of these animals. And they kind of admitted that this rule was a bit archaic for the city of Dallas, and they're going to work really hard to try to change it.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, they were going to work hard to try to change it. So I think it worked out fine. And I actually sold a black-headed python at that show. And the deal is you cannot do the transaction inside the city of Dallas. And even the officer showed me, she goes, if you go to Google and you look at the city of Dallas and you Google it, it'll show this shaded part of where the city of Dallas is. Well, the closest place from the venue outside the city of Dallas was a place called Grand Prairie. And so the customer I had, I said, let's meet at the Starbucks out in Grand Prairie, 8:30 tomorrow morning on Sunday, and we'll do the transaction there. So it worked out fine.
All right. How far away was Grand Prairie from?
20 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. It wasn't bad. Yeah. And so, that worked out pretty good. And
not to sell something. Yeah.
It was nice to sell a blackhead at that show, even with the restrictions, and it worked out fine.
That's good. You were pretty close to the front. Were your ball python sales pretty good?
No, not really.
Okay.
I was right next to Red Line Shipping. I mean, we were kind of talking to each other a lot. And, I basically sold a couple of speckled kings there, and had some ball python interest, but, I didn't sell any at that show.
Any?
Surprising.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was in the back, so I was looking at the ball python people in the back, and I'm like, dang, right? I felt a shout out. Portuguese pythons was my neighbor. Respect. But it just felt like, and I heard some people who were near the front did okay. It's just the ball python interest ran out as it got deeper because that was a lot of what was there.
Yeah. And I don't know, I've always kind of been towards the front on those things, and I guess it's better to be in the front with the blackheads, I guess, and people see them, and then they kind of walk around, and then they come back and look and all that. But I haven't quite figured out where the best location is to be, and
right, the front can be bad because they could be like, I need to go buy something else. I have to look at more before I buy.
Yeah,
that's why the front could be bad.
Right, and I'm going to think about doing that and maybe get moved a little bit
in the middle, maybe.
Yeah, I'd like to be in the middle. I think some of the guys that I know that do well they're always in the center, in the middle, and an end cap in there, and
yeah, I don't know the answer either.
Yeah, one year I was right next to ARS. And
was that
Brian
good?
was there, and every time I tried to, it was during COVID, I guess, or right after COVID in 21, and I was right next to Brian, and every time anybody came up and talked to me about getting a blackhead, they're like, "What kind of caging do I need?" And I said, "Come on over here and look at this. Brian's got all these things," and we were opening up the drawers and looking at everything, and yeah, they fit in here good, and these will be good for a certain age, and and then you move on.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's always nice to have somebody nearby with caging so you can show them what they need or what they should get or
Yeah,
might
for
want.
sure. Yeah, that was what was nice about the Denver show is they like strategically put snake vendors not near each other. It was like, I don't know, snake, spider, oddity, plant, snake, spider,
Right.
oddity, plants. And I was like, oh, thank God. Like there's no like,
Yeah.
mites can't even walk that far, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it felt like very, like you had a fighting chance. So that's why I like being near non-reptile vendors. Like one
Yeah.
time I got between a turtle vendor and a mantis vendor, I'm like, good.
Right.
Let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. I look around carefully, and you can't pick your neighbors on those things, but I'll tell you what, I make more friends at these shows with the neighbors than anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And we
Because
all
you're in it, you're in the trenches together.
Yeah. And we all compare notes and talk. And I was with the folks at Burning Ember Reptiles the last show in Austin, and it was fun. I got to know them real well. They brought their little baby with them.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just cute, and they were selling corn snakes and maybe a few ball pythons, and it's just fun. I like the whole industry. It's kind of like people I can talk to that know about reptiles that normally I can't talk to people here at home when I go to the grocery store or whatever. I'm talking to my animals and my rats, and that's it. And,
yeah, it's hard. My husband's like, you should make friends with the other military spouses, and I'm just like, I don't even want to, because every time I go there, I don't have anything to talk about with them.
Right. And if you talk about reptiles with them, and they all of a sudden peg you in this little corner, and that's really weird, and
I mean,
that's so different. And
let's be honest.
Yeah.
No, but I don't have anything that they're interested in talking about. They're probably interested in whatever normal people are interested in. But like every minute of every day, I'm like, how many rats do I need to pull tonight from the freezer? Or like
right.
it consumes.
It's a lot. Yeah.
It's like, and when they say it's like a lifestyle, I'm like, yes, it is.
It is. It is a lifestyle.
It's crazy. So like, can we talk about the Harris County speckled kings, because they are very nice looking?
Yeah.
Did you collect them yourself?
I did not. A friend of mine, Scott Wahlberg, collected them, and here in Houston, we have this thing called the East Texas Herpetological Society, and a lot of the local herpers in Houston belong to that. And for the longest time, they had a 1 day. It was a show on. It was a weekend deal, and they'd get guys coming in here. They did it at the Marriott Hotel first, and then they did it at another place later on. But these guys know all the great herping spots, and this show that they put on was just amazing. And what they have is talks on Saturdays. So you go to the show Saturday, and everybody's giving these talks about different reptiles and things like that. And then on Sunday, they do Breeder Expo. It started at 11 and ended at 4. And man, that show was packed, and you would make so much money at that show. That was just amazing. Well, anyway, a lot of the people that hung around that show, I got to know, and a lot of them are very good friends of mine. And they don't do the show anymore. They all kind of take trips down to Costa Rica and stuff like that as part of the program with that. But anyway, I got to know a lot of these people, and this guy Scott. One day I was looking on one of the forums or I forget where it was, and he had this picture of this yellow speckled king up there. And I was like, I told him, I said, Scott, if you ever get rid of that stuff, let me know. I will buy it from you, because I think they're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Well, here I am 1 day later, months later, I guess it was, I was at a show, and in walks Scott, and he's got 3 or 4 bags of speckled kings for me. And he goes, here, they're yours.
Good guy, Scott.
Enjoy.
Coming through.
Yeah, enjoy. And I said, thank you. And his cousin, who is, what was his name? I forget his name. Clint the Snake Man is his cousin. And he does a lot of shows around Houston for birthday parties and things like that. And Clint had another one, and I went and got that one from Clint, and he gave it to me. And then I have another fellow that I know that his name is Tom Sinclair. He's a reptile book dealer, and he lives right around the corner from me, and he's a good friend. And Tom had some. I went over to visit with him one day, and he had some speckled kings, and they're all from this pretty, very, very close locality out where I-10 and 99 meet in Houston, just west of Houston towards Katy. And all these animals were collected from there. So I got them all. And I bred them, and I've bred them for years. And then basically, I cut back on that a lot. I had too many, and I was 20 or 30 speckled kings at once. And you want to hear something funny? Speckled kings, you would think any king snake that you hatch out, it's going to come out with this ravenous appetite, and you're going to be able to throw pinkies at it, and it's going to be like, man, this is a blast. Well, I learned a long time ago working with Eastern Chain Kings, Outer Banks Kings, and even some of the Mountain Kings, that you could throw pinkies at them and they wouldn't do anything. And you basically sweat it out until either they decided they were going to die or they were going to thrive. And I used to go out and have to collect story-eye decay-eye, which is a Texas brown snake, and catch those and use them for scenting, and I'd get them to eat that way. And here's kind of things that you learn when you're working with this stuff for a long time. I used to set my baby speckled kings up in one of those little deli sandwich things with the blue tops, and I poke little holes in them with a soldering iron, and then I got a 1 ounce shot glass, and I'd zip tie that in there and put another shot glass inside it so I could take the water bowl out and then put aspen bedding in there. And I'd do that, and I'd have stacks of those things, and I never could get them to eat really good. And I just, they were trouble. But when they finally ate, it was a great thing. Well, this year it was a kind of a discovery of mine anyway for me. What I did was I took those 9 babies. I wasn't looking forward to getting these babies that clutch. And I said, well, the female had eggs in her. I said, I'll go ahead and, incubate the eggs and all that. So the babies hatched out, and I had like 9 slots open in my ARS 1039 rack. And so I said, I'm just going to go ahead and put them in there. And, a nice long rack and cage in there, aspen bedding, big water bowl, the short water bowl about like that big. It was a 12-ounce water bowl. I threw them in there and I labeled them up and everything, and then waited a week or so and started dropping pinkies in there. And I noticed that all those little hatchlings, what they did was they crawled underneath the water bowl inside the cup holder and underneath the water bowl so they could get compressed. They want to be compressed. And they felt secure enough, and every time I dropped a pinky in there, they ate it. I never had one that refused to eat right off the bat.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I from now on, I'm probably gonna have to buy another 1039 rack. Because I can't go back to that old way with the Tupperware cups, Tupperware tubs and all that.
Yeah, it makes sense. They're like very fossorial-ish sometimes. Like when they want to be safe, they will squish themselves real deep. Let's look at a picture for fun.
Yeah.
This is the diamond python of North America. What do you think about that?
It's like a poor man's diamond python.
Yeah. It's very, very cool. I'm glad you stuck it out. I mean, since those are what sold at Dallas and a blackhead, are you thinking about doing some more colubrids again?
I am.
Been tempted to do it again?
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I want to get maybe some more king snakes. I'd like to get my Outer Banks back, but the problem with Outer Banks is that, it's kind of, you have to grow them up a good bit before they really show their true speckling that makes them look like Outer Banks. But, I got my Outer Banks a long time ago from Jim Kane, and they were off Hatteras Island in North Carolina, and they're great, but I'm kind of toying with the idea of getting into another species. I'm not exactly sure what. I've looked at everything,
and you had a lot back in the day. Thank you, Adrian, for the super chat. I appreciate it. It's interesting because, like, you had them. Did you switch to balls for economic reasons, do you think, or it was just too hard to sell, or balls were too easy to breed?
Well,
not easy to breed, but easy to sell, and you're like, oh, I'll just switch to that.
No, I didn't think that they were easy to sell. And when I first saw the balls coming in, I was like, what is going on here? And the pastels for $20,000 and things like that. I just couldn't handle that.
Right.
And so I waited for a while, but I got into the balls mainly because of what I had seen with the pieds. I bought a group of pieds from a fellow over near Beaumont, and then I bought a pied from this guy at Cypress Creek Reptiles down in Florida, and it was my friend met me. I was at the airport picking it up. It was coming in Delta Dash, and he was there, and he goes, "What you got in that box, Jim?" And I said, "I got a pied in here." He goes, "Let me take a look." And we opened the box up because back then these guys wouldn't send you pictures of the snake.
Right.
You kind of buy it on. I think that was off a king snake, honestly. And I bought it on sight unseen. It was a low white pied. It was so low white. It was unbelievable. And he goes, and we turned it over and looked at the belly, and he goes, "Yep, that's pied." And so I said, "Okay." And I still have that animal. She's like a 2006, 2000.
Awesome.
And she's actually got follicles in her right now, and I'm breeding her to something I can't remember offhand, but I'm working on that. But so basically what happened with me I bought a couple pastels that were cheap, back at the shows and things. And then I ran across this ultramel that a friend of mine had up in Dallas, and I was like, man, that is the most beautiful snake I've ever seen. And I was like, boy, wouldn't that look cool with a pied and all that kind of stuff? And I started thinking about it, and I was doing the blackheads about the same time, and I had sold all my corn snakes, and I just started divesting all of my hog noses and everything because I felt like and this is funny because it's back to the same thing, but I felt back then that I couldn't compete with the Don Soderbergs and Don Shores and all those guys. I can't do that. Then I started getting into ball pythons. I can't compete with anybody. And
right.
So anyway, but I do it out of just a kind of a passion thing. And but when I finally, that ultramel that I saw was like $5,000, and I was like, man, I can't spend $5,000 right now on a snake. And but anyway, I ended up going down to Daytona, and I walked all around Daytona that year, and man, there was a guy sitting in the side hallway. He had two of these. They were really called African caramel albinos then, and they were gorgeous. And I said, man, I happen to have some money, and he had a male and a female, and I bought the male, and he said, if you want the female, contact me after the show. And so we did, and I got that animal, and I still have that female, and she's got eggs in her too. And that's where I started rolling off on, starting with breeding the ultramel to the pied and starting that project from scratch. And do you know how long it took me to get an ultramel out of that deal?
I don't know. How long?
9 years.
What?
Yeah, I ground on that thing, ground on it.
You didn't just like break down and buy one after?
No, because once I get in something, I'm just like, I'm gonna get there. And finally, I got this one male. It was an ultramel, and he had a little bit of a ringer on him. I said, he's got to be, het pied. And so I bred him I had 6 or 7 double head ultrapied females. I had a small army of them, and
Mhm.
I bred him to something. And the very first ultrapied I hatched out was August 31st, 2017. And that was the day that Hurricane Harvey hit Houston.
Oh,
So guess what
no.
his name is?
Harvey.
Harvey.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you still have him, or did you?
Yeah, Harvey. I still have Harvey. I have three males that I use for breeding. I have Harvey, Marshall, and Woodson, and they're all beautiful. And I rotate them around, and I get really nice stuff out of them. So
That's awesome.
usually when people see my ultrapied stuff, they really think it's great. And a lot of my displays are just pretty much, it looks like a candy store because it's
Mhm.
all this ultramel and all this color there. I have all these displays, and I just I like that a lot, and so I'm working different traits into that. And it's fun.
Yeah. Jennifer, thank you for the super chat. I will, I guess, have King Snake people on every time just for you. And Emma, thank you for the re-up on the membership. I appreciate it. What direction do you want Ultramel to go in? Do you like dark stuff plus Ultramel, or do you prefer like the bright stuff?
I kind of like the bright, and I'm not sure what direction I'm going to take it. I'm working all kinds of directions at once. They're going in every different way, but it just takes me a long time because I wonder how these big guys do it, but I know they have so many animals, and they probably have employees standing over each one of those tubs with females every day to feed them a rat,
Mhm.
and get them to grow up. But I don't push mine that hard. I try to get them in a healthy age and then breed them. And it's just, they're going to go when they're going to go, and I can't do anything about it. And so, but I'm working with clowns. I hatched a beautiful, beautiful ultra clown this year that it's on my Instagram, and it's just gorgeous. And it was a female, and I'm raising her up. It's the one with the little split rock symbol on it. You have to maybe scroll down a little bit.
Oh, down, not up.
Well, yeah, it depends on where you are, but it's more recent than, there it is. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And so I get
didn't take 8 years to hit the Ultra Clone.
What? No, it didn't. It didn't. No,
That's good.
No, and I'll tell you what, the thing that's great about this industry today is, and I can't say it enough, that thank God we have RGI and some of these other guys out there that can do genetic testing for us, because it really helps a lot. I've spent a lot of money in the last year or so, and with getting genetic testing done. Shed testing is a great
so you're in.
I'm in all the way. Yeah.
It definitely does save time, money, everything. My only concerns are relatively esoteric, does it make it too fast and too easy?
Right.
Values projects.
Yeah.
It's not hard to do.
And that you work on something for 9 years, and all of a sudden that one that pops out, it makes it so special.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I like about it. That part about it. But, with recessives, it's a tough deal because you're always getting possible double heads or pos head this, pos head that. And with my Ultra Clown project, I have a lot of females that I've held back that were ultramel pos head clown or clown pos head ultramel. And I haven't tested them yet, but they're still here, and I've got their sheds. As soon as those babies shed, I put their sheds in a Ziploc bag, dry them out, bag them up, and I have a whole box full of sheds. And so, when it comes time, I'll go ahead and try to send those off. And now with fast testing, man, it's like 2 business days and the answer.
Right. I feel like a lot of people this year are gonna, how most people leave ball python clutches together and let them shed out together. They're gonna separate them.
I did that last year. Yeah, and it really helps. So that's kind of, it's just a little bit more of it's not an advantage. It's just more convenient to know what you've got. And, I had a beautiful hypo pos head ultramel that I made, and she's just gorgeous, and she's she's probably sitting at 800 grams, 700 grams right now. And I was like, I know she's got to be head ultramel. And I was like, but I'm going to have her tested. And I sent the shed off and I got it back and
she wasn't head
negative. And I was like, then I brought her to the show and tried to sell her and all that. But, I don't care. I'll just keep her and use her for whatever I can because she's a pretty snake.
Yeah.
And I can make other things with that. So.
Are you an ultrasound guy?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And, I first heard about that a long time ago. I knew Tracy Barker was doing that. And I said, because I talked to her at shows when she was going to shows and stuff. And I ended up buying an ultrasound machine from somebody out in Florida in California, back in like 2006, maybe a little bit later. And it was one of those huge ultrasound machines that it's 500 pounds and you push it and it's on these big rubber wheels and you see them in hospitals and all that. And I had that one. And it's kind of a funny story that I bought it. It worked for a good while. But what happens, all the codes in those ultrasound machines, at least back then, were proprietary. So what happens is if your mouse your little roller ball goes bad or something like that goes wrong, you lose your string codes. And so once you lose your string codes, you can't get them back. It renders that ultrasound machine completely useless. So, I don't know if you heard it, but the garbage man just came by a little while ago. And in Houston, a lot of times they'll take really big things. And what am I going to do with a useless ultrasound machine? So I put it out to the trash. And the garbage man comes up and rings my doorbell and says, hey, man, that thing's out of specs. It's like 500 pounds and it's going to take 3 guys to get it in the back of the thing. And I said, would $20 make it a little bit better? And he goes, yeah, I guess so. If you help me lift it up in the back. And so we all got back there and we lifted it up back in there and chunked it in there. And that was that.
And finally, bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had to buy another one. And this time I managed to make sure that I got the string codes so I could reprogram it, when the string codes went out. And then I had that one for a while longer. And then that went away. And now I'm just with it's like a little laptop.
Use the Contact or the
Contact.
Yeah.
I just finished ultrasounding. I guess it was 2 or 3 days ago. And I don't know if you can see this, but it's kind of like, see that stuff in orange?
Yeah.
So when I see those oranges, that means that I'm seeing growth in the follicles. And then I kind of say, okay, these are the females that I need to breed right now. And so, and then I write it all down and pair stuff up. And just for instance, the other day when I was doing it, I had a female in here that it was that original 2006 ultramel female that I got. Remember I told you about her? And I was trying to breed her to a pastel lesser het puzzle who was doing nothing. And he was just, he's young and all that. And I'm like, this dude is not doing anything. Well, I measured her follicles the other day and she's at 24.6 millimeters. And I'm like, damn, I got to put somebody else in there, and figure this out before she goes the other way. So I think I paired her up with a lesser cinnamon calico who's just gorgeous. And so we'll see what happens there.
I like calico ultraman.
Yeah, I've got the prettiest calico you can imagine. It's just bright, sugar white.
Yeah. I can't wait until everybody realizes they just need like calico everything.
Yeah. And this is the first time for me, and we'll see if it works out. If not, it'll be next year. And
I've asked this question to many people, and everybody gives me a different answer. But do you think pairing incites follicle growth, or follicle growth happens irrespective of pairing, and so you should just wait until you have X follicle size to pair?
Well, I can kind of answer that because a lot of the pairings I did, they were small. I usually start pairing at 12 millimeters and go from there. But a lot of the animals that I have on this list that are all my females, there's a lot of white spaces here. And that's because their follicles are like, I call them small. And that's like 7. Sometimes I measure them, sometimes I don't, but they're 7, 6 little pearls or whatever you have in there. And I personally prefer to wait till the follicle sizes reach about 12 or 13 or something like that. Then I feel comfortable putting someone in there, a male, and seeing what happens. But if they're super small, I just don't do it.
Yeah. So I used to, and sometimes I still do it if a male isn't very busy. I'm just like, whatever, just like go feel her up a little bit, give her a little something.
Right. Yeah.
But if he's busy, I don't think locks incite follicular growth at all.
You don't. Yeah. Yeah.
I've locked 40 females the first time, and they're all at 7, 8, 9. They don't do anything.
Right. Yeah. So it's kind of a, I only have, I think right now, and on ball python stuff, I have maybe 70 adult females, and I've probably got 35 to 40 males that I'm working with right now. And it's not huge, but, for me to ultrasound all my females, and I have them in cage order. So I start at one row and I pull that one, and it's the same as my spreadsheet. And I just go down and I every month I go in there and I write it down. And when I see something that looks really good and a surprise, I'll just highlight it in orange. And I say, man, I got to get a male in there. But the thing that really amazes me is you can have a female that's sitting there at 12, last month, and all of a sudden she's at 24. It goes that fast. And I never really knew that until several years ago. And I started doing it because I do it randomly. And then I started doing it once a month, and I was like, wow, look at that. There's a huge jump.
Yeah, and sometimes they can chill in like the teens, and you're like, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
But if they want to go, they go.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I haven't quite figured out the part where, the ones on the bottom need to be moved up and the ones on the top need to be moved down. And I don't really do a lot of that rotation. I just kind of go with what the ultrasound says.
Have you ever ultrasounded a blackhead python?
I have. And I'm a true believer now.
Oh, yeah?
And, let me tell you why. When I have the ultrasound out, I started breeding my blackheads. I start usually around Thanksgiving, and then I pick the pairs out that I used to just, pick the females out I thought they were big enough, and I pick out several pairs and put them in the big breeder cages, and then watch them and keep them together for 3 months, and watch them and write down on their cages with a chalk pen how many times I saw a lock and things like that. Well, I was ultrasounding probably back in February, and I keep a lot of my younger females in ARS 8016s. So there are these big drawers with the glass windows in it, and they've got nice heat in the back, and it's a lot of room for them. And so as I go through and I'm feeding everybody, I'm just kind of looking around, and I said, that one looks like, I wonder what she's doing. So I just pulled one out, and I have this really long box that I use. It's kind of a Tupperware under the bed blanket holder thing. And that's what I do all my ultrasounding in. And so I just grabbed a female and out of that 8016, and I said, I wonder what she's doing. And put her up there and start ultrasounding her. And I have to kind of be real careful because, they're trying to get away and they're not really super still. So you can't you can't, like, you've got to ultrasound and look at the screen at the same time and look, but it's very hard to hit freeze and then, go back, put the snake back, and then go back.
It's definitely a teamwork. You might need a buddy.
Yeah. And I sometimes I need an extra arm, but anyway, I did that one time, and man, she was at 21 millimeters, and I was like, wow, that's pretty good size. And so I said, well, did that a couple more times, and I actually took some of those females and in February, and I brought them out, ultrasounded them, and I said, they look good, I'm going to pair them up. And so I paired them up, and I said, I'll just have maybe 2 more clutches later on in the season and see how that works out. But actually, and I saw them breeding and all that, but normally I usually can tell when they're gravid or they're going to be gravid, and I counted the days since I put them together, and I forget, it was like 80 days or so before I saw my first ovulations. And normally a gravid blackhead won't eat. Okay. And so one day I was in there and I was just fooling around. I had some rats sitting there, and I chunk a rat in that one, chunk a rat in that one, both of them ate. So I said, okay, well, that's all right. I just kind of separated them then, because what I do, I don't know what everybody else does, but I pull those animals out, and I put them together, basically December 1st, and I leave them together till March 1st. And, in the big breeder cage, and I've got a good hot spot on one end at about 90 degrees or so, like that, and I keep my room temperature 72, something like that. And so there's an ambient drop, and I had some nighttime drops going on in there too. And
do you keep them in a different room than the ball pythons, or do you let your ball pythons have
I actually have 2 rooms.
Okay.
So, but basically they're all pretty much connected, and temperature wise, they're pretty much the same. So, for all intents and purposes, all of them feel that 72 degrees for that 3-month period. And it's March 1st. I'll take those males out and put them back and start feeding up, but I don't feed them during that whole sequence. And the reason I do that is when I bought my collection, the guy I bought them from, Joe Lewis, he was telling me, he goes, just put them together and don't feed them. Keep those males focused on what they're supposed to be doing, and don't have them running, getting something to eat, and then sitting back and digesting. And
do you think they actually need multiple locks or whatever? Don't you think? Sometimes I'm like, maybe a python is a python.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like, if they're building follicles, he could interact with her one time.
Right.
Just like in a ball python.
Yeah.
She'll store the sperm.
It's
just,
I don't know. I know what you're saying, and it's just insurance for me. I like to.
Oh yeah, that part's fine too. But I was just like, the more I think about it, I'm more like, I don't know. They're not like biologically. Maybe we could be simplifying it like we have for ball pythons sometimes. Like I did really weirdly short boa pairings this year, just because I was kind of like busy mentally, and I was like, I know you're developing follicles. I know you're developing follicles. So I didn't make them breed to incite development. I just paired them. And I didn't even pair them. Some of them I pulled technically too early, like before they even ovulated.
Right.
I still had pretty much full clutches. And I was like, that is not how I normally breed boas. And I was just like living my best life this winter.
Yeah.
And so then I'm like, I've watched on boas, and they appear to ovulate at about the same size ball pythons do. If you ever ultrasound a blackheaded when they're like close to ovulating, you see if they like ovulate at around 35 or 40.
No, I haven't. I really haven't gotten that far on it. I thought about it. I think I did one time, but she wasn't that close to ovulation yet.
Right. I'm just wondering if, I'm sure the Barkers would know, like what parts of the physiology are shared between all pythons.
Yeah. I mean,
Mr. Feely has a question. Do the females need fed to develop follicles though? Like, do they start developing after you finish the cooling and you start feeding again, or do you think they're already gravid by then?
Basically, what happens is during the years, particularly around August, July, August, September, October, I tend to feed the females fairly, not super heavy, but make sure they get real good meals once a week at least, sometimes maybe a little extra. And then when they go into breeding, then they have enough fat reserves and supplies in there. And then once the cooling period starts, when I start dropping the temperatures, that's when they start developing their follicles. And then the males start, of course, I don't ultrasound the very first time, but like I said, that one female that I put together, with late in the season, she had 22 millimeter follicles in her. So she was already developing follicles in the
cool
the
part.
8016, before I even decided to pull. And so, I think they're developing follicles even before I put them together.
Right.
Obviously, because that was a 2019 female. So.
Yeah. It's always, you're always being taught something, I think, that you thought you kind of knew, but then I don't know if anybody really knows.
Yeah.
Because I have like acyclic boas that like breed on the wrong time of the year, even though I cool everybody technically. So I don't know what she's doing. I just wonder if we could be ultrasounding more of these pythons, and like maybe some of them are acyclic now because they just want to be on Australia time or whatever. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah. I find that every year I'm learning something new and I'm trying something different, and that helps. And the more you do it, the more experience you have, and you learn to read the animals a little bit better and see what's going on with them. And
do you think blackheads are underfed or overfed in the hobby?
So generally, I don't know about everybody else's blackheads. I just know about mine, and mine. Initially, when I first got them, I was feeding them too much, and they weren't super obese. I had one animal that was very obese, but I sent her to a friend of mine, and he put her on a diet and got her on quail for like a year, and she lost a lot of that weight. And I don't know if he ever bred her, but she was a 2004. I think she's still around. But yeah, I think people's tendency is, hey, I got this big snake and I want to feed it and make sure it's growing really good. And in general, I think it's better to feed less and feed maybe smaller meals, but maybe more often. That's the healthier way to go. But everybody does it their own way, a little bit differently. So I can't really say, because I don't go and look at other people's blackhead collections that often.
Yeah, sure. Do you think blackheads need quail or lizard substitutes because they're not really supposed to be eating high fat?
Yeah, I think I think that works. And what's kind of fun about blackheads is, I don't practice it that often, but they will eat a lot of different things. Okay?
How about baby pythons?
You can feed them chicks. You can feed them
baby ball pythons.
I have done that one time. I've actually seen one eat one. It was a kinked up baby that I got.
Yeah.
Like throw it in there, and it was amazing to watch them eat it, because normally with a rat is this big around, like that big around, and when you have something that big around, to see them wrap their body around it and try to get it and eat it, it's unique. But so the fun part about blackheads is you can experiment with food. You can give them quail, you can give them chicks, you can give them all kinds of stuff. On one day I went fishing and I caught some sand bass. And I said, well, they might eat those fish, and so I froze them and then and thawed them out later just on experiment and threw them in there. They gobbled those bass right up. And then I'll go to Kroger sometimes and buy tilapia, and they're whole tilapia with the fins and everything on it. The guts are out and the head's off, I guess, but throw them in there and they'll eat it. And you could throw them a hot dog and they would.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah, and so you can, from a hobbyist standpoint, you can experiment with things that you don't think they're going to eat, and they'll eat it as long as it's something healthy that you're giving them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good. I think it's good. They're not. We feed them rodents because it's convenient, and that's what everybody generally has access to. But it's good to give them quail.
Do yours start better on quail or quail scented stuff, or are they okay on rodents?
Starting?
Yeah, starting.
Okay,
blackheads.
That's a whole new.
Do you need a bearded dragon to rub on it?
No, I've never done anything like that. So the thing about black-headed pythons is you get these beautiful babies coming out, and they're gorgeous, but man, they're difficult to start. Mm-hmm. And basically, you have to. What I do is when they hatch out, and they've shed and everything, I set them up, and I don't really fool with them for about 3 or 4 weeks. I don't give them, just give them water and set them up in a 1039 or whatever. And after about 4 weeks, I want them to absorb as much yolk as they can and start getting hungry. Mm-hmm. And then you can sit there and take little fuzzy mice about as big as that or a little smaller than that, fresh killed or frozen thawed. And I start dropping them in there overnight. And usually for the first month or two, they won't eat it. And so after a while, you kind of look at them and you see how they're doing. You look at their body, you look at if they're getting saggy and stuff like, because they're not eating. So basically what I have to do is teach them how to eat. And so what I do is I have this little tool, and it's came from one of my wife's hair coloring kits. I've had it for like 20 years, and it's a little spatula. It's white, and they use it for mixing their hair color.
Woman stuff.
Yeah, woman stuff. And I keep that. And basically what I have to do is I raise my own rodents. So I go out there and I go get appropriate size one, which is kind of like a fuzzy or just barely a hopper. And I take this spatula, I put my mouse prey here on a table, take the snake out, hold it by the neck a little bit, take that spatula, and I open up their mouth. Mm-hmm. And as soon as their mouth's open, since I don't have 3 hands, I can't reach down and grab that mouse, right? So what I do is I take the end of the spatula, which is clean, I put it in my teeth. And then I go like that. And I put it in their mouth. And then I put them down on the garage floor or whatever in the room. And I walk away real fast. And they'll shake their head, and sometimes they'll spit it out. And so I have to reinsert it. And then I spit it out, reinsert it. And then finally they'll sit there and they'll start chewing. They kind of go into a trance, and they start chewing, and then they'll chew it and they'll swallow it. And they've eaten their first meal. Okay, I repeat this whole process every week. And, after about 2 or 3 months, sometimes you walk in there the next morning and the frozen thawed, pinky that you've dropped in there the night before, it's gone. So you sit there and you feel the stomach and yep, it ate it. There's a lump down there. Well, that's what I call a graduate. And so they kind of graduated to they're eating on their own. So after that, every time you drop a pinky or whatever you're going to drop in there, they eat it, and they're bulletproof from then on out. But
have you ever had one eat without assist feeding? Eat
very
mice
rarely, rarely, yeah.
But what about lizards?
I I haven't really tried it. It's there's so many different types of lizards out there. All we have around here are green anoles, and I really never tried doing anything with bearded dragons. And I was at the show the other day talking to somebody, and they said you could raise these
Benoist geckos?
morning geckos.
Yeah, morning are pathogenic, but Benoist are from Australia.
What
and
are they?
Always, Benoist geckos. It's another pathogenic species.
Yeah.
I'm like, all you Australian bros, they just like set them up. They're all female. You just get eggs.
Yeah, and you feed them some kind of paste, I think, right?
Yeah, both of them, morning and Benoist, and some crickets too for like protein.
Yeah.
But like,
I'm thinking about doing that just for the fun of it, just to try, because I've got space so I could put, a little colony of those together and see what would happen. The other thing is I thought about doing, and I haven't done it yet, is just go out and find some shiners and go buy some shiners from somebody at a bait store or something like that, and stick them in a little cup and let them swim around and see if they go after those, which would be interesting to see.
Yeah, have you ever put like the
those.
pinkies in like a stew of any kind? Like
I've never really tried that. I had so much trouble with the hog noses. I did all that tuna scenting and all that kind of stuff. And, let me just back up real quick. The very first snake I ever had here when I first got involved with reptiles was an Eastern hognose. And the original challenge for me was to get that thing to eat rodents. And anyway, I did the scenting and it ate rodents. And so I know about the scenting and I know it works. It's just another step or two steps you got to take.
Yeah.
The thing about it is,
for me, it's like stressful.
It's stressful. And I will never send anybody a snake, a blackheaded python. Usually I keep them for at least 6 months after they've started eating, because I want to make sure they are solid, bulletproof before I go. A lot of times I keep them for a year, 2 years, just to, if nobody wants to buy it, I'll keep it. And it's not a problem for me to do that because I'll raise them up and breed them myself. But I won't. Usually anybody wants a snake from me, it's not going to be a hatchling, because you pay a lot of money for these things, and I don't want the stress to go on to my customer to be stressed about buying a kind of a rare and expensive animal and have them pull their hair out because it's not eating.
Yeah.
That's the way I do it. And so far it's worked. And I like to see all my little graduates come along, and when they have to leave, it's time to go. But when they graduate, it's like a little celebration around here because they started eating on their own.
Yeah, I just want all you python guys and gals to try out some geckos. I
think that's a good idea.
I think it could be parasite free. You know where it is. You didn't have to collect it. It's not that hard. But these animals are so expensive. It would be okay if they were on your like farmed geckos for 6 months, because that's worth it to me. I don't know.
The trick is this: you can get them eating those morning geckos or the other ones you were talking about. But the question is, are they going to switch over to rodents after? When are you going to do that, and how are they going to do that? And so. But maybe they'll kick right in. You don't know.
Yeah, maybe it's like there's obviously like an ontogenic food partitioning. Yeah. Where like the babies are supposed to eat this, the adults are supposed to, just like with the king snakes, they're probably eating little snakes and little skinks and so that's why they become unpicky when they get older, because when they're older, they're supposed to be like eating everything and smushing it in a burrow and crushing it and then eating it. But when they're little, they know they need certain cues. So that's why I think you should try. Report back.
I'm only going to give it a shot.
Yeah.
And if it makes it easier, but generally speaking,
like chondros, somebody needs to just breed little geckos for chondros. What are we doing beating them on the head with Rosenthal pinkies? They don't need to do that. There's a better way.
It's hard enough being a snake without being slammed in the face.
Yeah,
by
just
a rodent.
slapping them. We don't need to do that. Just give me. They're expensive. It's okay. We can afford it.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about your Blackhead collection. What are the lines that you have, and maybe what are you excited about looking forward to with
Sure.
projects?
My main focus right now, I have two lines really. I have the Swiss line, and when I bought my animals from Joe Lewis back in 2004, March of 2004, I bought his entire Eastern Blackheaded collection from him. And I'm a big guy of provenance. I like to talk about provenance, where these animals came from. I'm kind of a stickler for who the parents were, how far back it goes. And back then, Joe Lewis, he was really very detail oriented on where these animals came from. And they originally came out of Switzerland. A guy named George Merzakis in Zurich had them. And all this stuff is on the CITES paperwork that I have in my safe. So they came from George, and then they went to a guy named Joe Robson in New Jersey. And Joe had him for a while, and he passed away, and his wife, I think, sold him to Casey Lazick. And Casey had him for a while. And then they went from Casey to another guy, Brandon Week, had some for a while. And then I followed this trail all around. It was a huge project. But anyway, they ended up with Joe, and then he gave them to me. So I got all that paperwork and everything. So basically, I named the Swiss line. And it was the reason I did that was because I couldn't track them any further back than Switzerland and where they came from in Zurich. So I just call it Swiss line, and they're very bright individual animals. I started when I got that first group from Joe Lewis. The one of the females in there was gravid, and so he drove those animals down from Virginia down to Houston. I met him at a Taco Bell next to the airport, and I had to leave work and go pick up these black-headed pythons and bring them back to my house. And Joe, it was a rental car, so he dropped off the rental car and used his miles to fly back to Virginia. So that female, she dropped like 10 eggs on me 2 weeks later. And so I was right in the thick of it. I didn't have to worry about breeding them at that point in time, but I had to really sweat it out for the incubation, the hatching, and then getting these babies to feed. So it was like feet to the fire right away. And that's what really helped me. So anyway, I started working with that line of animals, and I started getting some really beautiful yellows as a ground color and beautiful banding, and some of them even have a gold stuff under their chin. It's a lot of them. I don't think it really means anything, but it's kind of the Australians, the K brothers. They had a lot of gold chin stuff going on over there. UK Pythons does a lot of stuff with gold chin. There's are really hypos. And I really don't have any of that right now, but I'm working on it. But so that's the one line I have is my Swiss line. Then
like this as a
example? Absolutely, okay. Yeah, that's the gold chin, and so some of my stuff has that. Then I guess in 2012, somebody contacted me. Earlier than that, I was looking for some axanthic stuff or other morphs. There's axanthics out there. There's hypo out there. There's albino. There's definitely albino out there.
In Australia or in someone's pants?
Huh?
Like in Australia or in someone's pants in Germany? You know what I mean?
Well, actually, they were hatched out in the Netherlands.
Oh.
And so
not in anybody's pants. Excellent.
If you look at that, I actually had an opportunity to buy pos head albinos back.
Were they real pos head albinos, or were they you know,
They were real.
Okay, they were the real ones. Okay.
Because they were they were hets, and anyway, that deal didn't work out.
Where did they go? Are they still around?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're still around. I think UK Pythons bought some, and they actually got some albinos out, I believe, over there, but they were selling hets. And now in yeah, there they are. Yeah, they're crazy. Now you can. There's a couple guys down in Florida working with hets. I don't know where they are with that. It's kind of a hush hush project, but I know they have hets. And
I had no idea. You can make snows. That'd be real.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's
me.
a lot of potential for blackheads. There are some morphs coming out.
Yeah. What do you think about tiger?
I like that. The tiger stripe axanthics.
Or just the on Roddy's website, he had he said he thought it was recessive, but then he bred them together and he made all black dead ones.
Dead ones, yeah.
And I'm like, sounds incomplete dominant to me.
It could be, yeah. I don't really know yet, and you know, there's part of me that really wants to start that project.
These are from like I can't make it big. Oh no, come on. All right, whatever. I like these a lot.
The tigers, yeah. I think they're great. Yeah, I would love to have those.
Wild, very cool. I don't know what to do with it, but I'm in. And how many lines of axanthic are there? Have
well,
you tested a bunch of them to each other, or are we still just sort of?
There's a couple lines. So let me kind of back up to this other story. Somebody contacted me back in 2012, and he said he had gotten a pair of blackheads from somebody, and they were just normals, and he had bred them and hatched out like axanthics. And you know, I'm like, wow, that's fantastic. And we worked out a deal, and I was able to get the parents and all those most of those offspring, which included a couple of axanthics, some posshead axanthics, and that's where my axanthic project started. And so my line that I have is, from what I understand, and I really haven't talked to Derek a lot in great detail about it, but he lists his lines. He's got a line A and a line B, and I know that one of his animals came from, you know, the group that I have, and he bred those together apparently, and it was they were incompatible.
So his two are incompatible, but he never bred. I mean, confirmed by breeding the one he thinks is yours to yours, right?
No, I think what he did was, as far as I know, he took the one that came from, you know, the guy who sold me mine. He got that one, and he bred it to one of his called A line maybe, and so he took A and B and bred those axanthics together and found out that, you know, it was not compatible. He got all normals or double heads.
Do you refer to yours as B line, or do you?
No,
think...
I don't.
Okay.
I don't refer to mine as B line. I just call them the split rock line.
Okay.
Because that was part of the deal. Is when I got those animals, I said I want to be able to call these my line, and that was fine with the person who was selling them. So,
okay, but he also sold them to other people.
He sold one, I think. He sold one to Derek Roddy.
Okay.
And that was it. And so that's, I think, where that came from. I could be wrong, but I think that's generally the way it is. So anyway, I've been working with that line for a while. And, you know, the very first thing I did when I got that axanthic female up to size is the very first thing I did is I bred my best Swiss line male to her. And so I got, because I wanted to bring in that beautiful yellow into the axanthic, which would turn silver. And so basically I did that, and that was years ago. And this year, this right now is when I've started breeding those Swiss line head axanthics together. And so last year I did it, and I got a couple axanthics out of it. And I'll tell you what, they're a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
I call them feather banded. They're bands on the sides. One of those it shows up in one of my Instagram videos there, but the banding is really thin. And actually, I hatched one out that was, the banding looked like, ribs. I mean, it was really thin. It
Spooky.
was born dead, but
Oh no.
yeah, but it's there. I'm still working with it. So anyway,
You think the banding is thin because there's a lot of color in it, and so it's just desaturating it, but it's actually the edges of a full size band, or you think it is the band?
it's the, let's see, it's probably, you got to go probably up.
Up.
Yeah.
This one? No.
Yeah, that one right there. Yeah. If you can click on that video, you see the V's on the banding is really sharp.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I hadn't seen that before,
That's
and
nice.
that one's part Swiss in there. So I think that may be something new. I don't really.
It's almost like, I don't know. It almost reminds me of like a rat snake or something.
What's that?
It reminds me of a rat snake or a bull snake or something.
Yeah, yeah,
Exantic.
yeah.
Is that weird?
So I was
Not
really
that
happy with that, and this year we'll see some more things about that if I'm lucky, and so it's exciting.
What's the going rate for an exanthic blackhead these days?
I think it can be upwards of maybe $6,000 or $7,000.
Okay.
I'm maybe a little bit lower than that, but
The corn snakes, I don't have to pay that much.
yeah.
They're very cool though.
Usually, yeah, I've sold quite a few Axanthics, and it's been a great project for me.
Yeah, well, they look really cool and dramatic, and they don't get the ones that I've seen at the show that are older, maybe not like full size adults, aren't like yucky looking, Axanthic and ball pythons.
It browns out.
Yeah. Even the best of them, it's still, or it gets like a yellow percent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think there's head effect for Axanthic? Like, can you tell that that's like slightly desaturated on the?
So I can tell. I think I can tell. I haven't tested it yet, but I can tell from a clutch. Like if I do a head-to-head breeding, and I get Axanthics out of it, sometimes I think I can tell pos hets from hets, really. And
yeah, I believe you.
Based on the banding clarity. The ones that have the clearest, most vertical banding seem to be hets for me, anyway. I haven't proved it out yet. I have one female I pulled, and I said, she's grown up now, and she's ready to breed. I'll breed her next year. And I have written on her cage, probable het, because I know this can tell, because I have so many animals that I have so many hets, I have so many Axanthics, I can compare them, and you develop an eye for them. The more you look at them, the more you can develop it. So,
yeah, I think people know this now, like, but it takes a while, and it's subtle and weird sometimes. Like het lav is brighter than not het lav, and more orange. So a pied het lav is quite a bit.
Yeah, even with my ultramels,
your het, yeah,
you can see the hets are a little bit better looking than the regular.
Right.
So I think there's something in there, like you're saying, with the saturation or desaturation or whatever. It just kind of bleeds through sometimes.
Yeah, het, like anery boas are like 20% anery, basically.
Yeah.
And then if they are anery, it goes the whole way. But it's like, it makes everything desaturated just a touch and sort of green, which is a weird color to talk about. But like it sort of changes the effect of what color is there, and it looks green. I don't know. You can totally tell. I mean, I wouldn't sell it that way. It doesn't matter. But if you're picking hets, I feel like you can tell for a lot of
it's nice. It's what they call a tell.
Right.
But anyway, they may be doing some work with shed testing on that.
Yeah, I hope.
Blackheads.
Yeah, I hope they do, because then they could like clear up A, B, C, D exanthic without having to like make a bunch of double heads.
Right.
know?
Yeah.
There's nothing worse.
No, that's exactly right. And some people who buy, say, an axanthic from me, I had one case of a guy that I heard about it later on, but he bought one of my lines, and then he went and bought one of the other lines, and he didn't realize that they could be not compatible, because a lot of people like to go unrelated to unrelated, but if you go unrelated axanthic to axanthic and you don't happen to know the lines that you're using, you can get yourself in a little trouble there, or you're going to get make some double hets. And double hets are fun. I like double hets, but if you're really looking for axanthics and you get double hets out of the deal, it's not what you're really wanted to do.
Well, then it causes like an embarrassing amount of confusion down the line.
Yeah.
And all the caramel that's showing up and all the ultramel. To me, that's embarrassing. We all should be embarrassed that we weren't keeping track of stuff. Right.
And I probably need to chat with the other guys and say, hey, is your line compatible with mine or whatever, but it's kind of one of those things that you just kind of, I don't know, you're feeling around in the dark a lot sometimes.
Yeah, especially in a species where there's not, I don't know, a lot of like top-down pressure from like a whole community. Like ball python people can probably yell at each other enough that we could get caramel out of ultramel if we really tried. Now that we have testing and stuff.
Yep.
But it's hard when it's not that many people, because then everyone's just like, whatever, I'll just wholesale it. That's the problem at boas. People really don't care, and it really messes stuff up, because Call and Sharp are half messed up.
Yeah.
But it's debilitating, because it takes you a long time to raise that female. And if she's accidentally double het for both, all of her babies are useless. And you're useless. And then you want to leave the hobby. So I would hate that to happen. If you were doing with blackheads that cost $7,000. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
They're very expensive, but they're a beautiful display animal, and they're really when I walk in my room in there, and even when it's feeding time, they're always doing this. They're looking around, checking out. They have some level of intelligence, I believe. Mm-hmm. And the people ask, why aren't black-headed pythons more popular? And there's several reasons why. First of all, they can be big snakes. So if you want big snakes, you have to kind of house them properly. Mm-hmm. Adult black-headed pythons, maybe 8 feet for males and maybe 11 feet for big females.
That's pretty big.
It's a big snake. Mm-hmm. They make a great display snake. A lot of people think that black-headed pythons they'll eat each other when you put them together, and they don't do that. That's not.
Never?
No, I've never seen it.
Okay.
Never.
That's all I hear about. Are womas more likely to do it?
I don't know. I raised womas for a little while, and it was just kind of a stepping stone for me to go to the blackheads. But I like the womas, but I sold them as soon as I moved into the blackheads.
Do you think the blackheads are better, or you just like the look?
I like the look better. It's just a more of a unique. I like the womas too, and there's some beautiful womas out there, and I like it with they get these dark eyebrows over their heads, and their eyes.
Orange head is interesting too.
Yeah. Here's a funny story. I go to these shows, and a lot of times I'll bring a bunch of Swiss stuff and some of my axanthic stuff, and I'll have a big display tower in there. Right across the very top, it'll say black-headed pythons, Aspidites, melanocephalus, right? And everybody comes up and goes, "Nice womas."
And you're like, I'm going to strangle you.
And I'm like, dude, it's right there. It's this Aspidites, black-headed pythons. It's almost a joke now, and I really feel like making a T-shirt that says "Split Rock Reptiles" on.
Do it.
I'll buy one. Nice womas on the back.
I'll buy one.
It's pretty funny. But I'll tell you what, when I go to a show, I have people come around to me all the time saying, these are flat out the best looking animals in this whole show. And, I'm not saying that they are or they're not, but I get a lot of compliments on them.
Well, your setup's real nice, like the lights coming down. Yeah, they are. I think the problem with them, and this isn't that big of a problem, it's just they're still too. Let me work with this. Too expensive.
Yeah. They are.
If they were $500, I think more people would have them.
Maybe. I don't know, but they're very, they're hard to get going. I mean, when Womas first came out, they were super expensive too, and then everybody kind of figured out how to breed them, and the price dropped to $300. And blackheads, here's a quick story. At the ETHS meeting way back when I went there, they used to have a Friday night pizza party in somebody's room. Everybody would go there, and it was a social night, and people would go there, and they'd have just all the folks of the ETHS and some of the honored guests and stuff like that be there, and they'd fill up a bathtub full of beer. They'd have like margaritas over there, and it's stacks and stacks of pizzas. And so I'm there, and this is just before I started getting the blackheads. And there's Dave Barker sitting over there, and having a beer with somebody, chatting it up. And I just said, well, I'm going to go up and talk to Dave Barker about this. And so I went up to Dave and I said, Dave, I'm thinking about going to Blackheaded Python routine, that avenue, and start, working with those. And I said, do you think that's a good idea? And he said to me, Blackheaded Pythons, small fan club, stable price. And it's been true ever since then, because right now, I started selling Swiss Lion blackheads back in 2006 or so for $2,500 each. Still the same price today.
I know. I do love that. Like a rare thing. If nobody overdoes it, it's just the right amount of doing it. It will stay the same price.
Yeah.
Forever, hypothetically.
Yeah. And so people were buying them pretty good back in the COVID days and stuff like that, because they had extra money and all that.
Yeah. Are there ball python people run into you and be like, I need blackheads just to diversify or whatever?
Yeah.
Now?
And
yeah.
It was good. I mean, I sold a lot, and it helped me out a lot. And I was able to buy a new caging and convert my entire garage into a 900 square foot snake room, and all that good stuff, and standby generators and everything, just in case something happens. My incubators are always going to be running.
You need a tornado shelter though for them.
Don't say that. Don't say
that'll be the next investment during the next pandemic.
Yeah,
an underground snake
move somewhere
fortress
to get a tornado shelter, and I don't think that's going to happen.
That's what I need. A snake fortress. Okay. So if someone was like a sweet little breeder, baby ball python breeder, whatever, and they just want some blackheads, where should they start? Should they get a well-started juvenile? Should they get a specific line? What's like your advice to them? Should they start with females in order to grow up?
I personally think that if they can buy a well-started juvenile, that's the best thing, because you're on the journey together with the snake. You want to see it grow up. You want to see what it does. You want it to be part of your family, right? I mean, your reptile family. I always say buy a young one. You can buy an older one too, but when you're buying a young one, you do the progression where you're starting from a certain size cage, and then you kind of progress up and to the larger cage, and that's all part of that journey. When you buy an adult, and I rarely sell adults, you got to go buy a big cage, Vision 622 or a Vision 400 series. It's you can put them in, and if you're handy and you love to build things, you can make a beautiful display for those things. And man, it's that's part of it. To display them.
Do you keep the males in 4-footers?
Sorry. Yes, I do.
Okay.
And I even keep some of the bigger females in 4-footers too. But for breeding season, when they go in those 4-footers and the 6-footers, and I can kind of watch them, and there's enough room in there. They're usually, when they first get in there, they're climbing up all over everything and trying to get up in the corners and stuff, and then they drop down. A lot of times I'm sitting in the room in there and I'm doing something. I'm working on baby labels or something. And I hear this, bam, and I'm like, what was that? One of those blackheads that came up, and they just smashed down on the bottom. I'm thinking about putting some cork in there or something like that so they can climb, because they seem to want to do it,
Yeah, or just build in some ledges.
Yeah.
All my boas love ledges. Any ledge.
I think that's a great idea. Ledges. Yeah. I could probably do that. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but you could put in little shelves in the back and on the sides. I just don't want to screw too many screws into my vision cages, but I guess you could.
It doesn't have to be like heavy, dude. You just like spray foam in something.
Oh, okay.
Like a brace or something, and just be like, that's a ledge now.
Yeah.
And you can still tear it out if you really need it to without screwing it in.
Yeah.
And they're really I don't know, they have that colubrid fossorial body. Do they like Applegate style and
they're a big
subterranean hides?
They just look like a big king snake. Their head's like a king snake. They act like a king snake. I think even some people have probably sent them over to other parts of the world as a desert king snake.
Ooh,
I don't know that.
The Splendida of variety we never knew. I
don't doubt it, but
yeah, they have that head, they put their head up in the morning in the desert and they warm up just their brain, just cold climate, and then once the brain's warmed up, they're just probably watching out of a hole.
Yeah. They're looking.
They go eat a bearded dragon or whatever.
Yeah, and the body. Everybody asks me. They say, "Did you make that snake with the black head and that different body?" And it looks like someone took one part of a snake and another snake and they glued them together. And I didn't do it. They're just like a zebra. They're just like a giraffe or whatever. That's the way their DNA is, and and that's what makes them special to me, at least, because they're so unique.
Mm-hmm.
And so I personally, I love my blackheads, and if push came to shove and that's all I could do, I'd just do that.
Very cool. Well, that's a good, even with the price tag, hopefully people will want more.
Yeah.
I think they sell themselves because they're beautiful, but maybe they're like, I don't know if I should do that because I thought they ate each other all the time.
No,
they don't. So
now, they can be very cage defensive. So, they have tremendous feeding response. So when it's feeding time, you open their sliding glass doors, or you open the cage. You have rat on it, tongs or whatever. I feed everything fresh killed or frozen thawed on the blackheads. My blackheads never see anything alive, hardly ever.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say ever. And but they're very aggressive towards food. They love to eat, and they just don't gobble it up. I always say, blackheads don't eat, they dine, and they do. They just love to eat, and they turn upside down, and they're just trying to envelop that rat and just kind of bring it down. And then once they finish, they're just like happy as can be. And but
will they take rats back to a preferred eating spot?
No, I don't think so. I don't see. I haven't seen that. They usually take them and right there, and they just start.
I've watched a boa drag a rat back to if they had a sort of pseudo subterranean hide. And I'm like, were you doing that on purpose or just a happy accident? A lot of them don't do that, but if they have that refugium area, and I'm like, I wonder if blackheads do that.
I want to show you something. Go to the website and look under the on the blackhead husbandry thing. It's not that page. It's another page. Let's see.
Captive husbandry.
Yeah.
All right.
I think roll down on there. Maybe it's not that one. Go back to the other. Go to the first page there. Let's see. Next page. Go to the other one. There's some pictures in there I wanted to show you.
Not this one.
Okay, go back up. Okay, hold on. Let's see here. Go down, up a little more.
Up a little more.
Okay, there. You see this picture all the way to the right where that snake is? Yeah, that one. You can blow that up. So that's Granger. Well, go back down a little bit. There, that one right there. So that's Granger. He was my original male that I got from Joe Lewis, and he's a color changer. So he went from his normal coloration to that coloration. And so this color changing thing is pretty cool. But what I wanted to talk to you about is Joe Lewis had these cages made by Freedom Breeder, and they're 8-foot drawers that you.
Oh, it's an Applegate hole.
Yeah, and there's a hole that goes down.
I see it.
Tub. And that tub, he has 2 tubs under there, and they go down in there and actually lay their eggs, or they'll go down there and hide. And you can actually have a cool spot and a warm spot that's subterranean. When I first started working with them, I took my 6-foot visions and actually drilled holes in them, and I had tubs underneath so they could slide out and you could see them in the tub. That's pretty cool. But he did a good job on that. And actually, some of those cages that were made by Freedom Breeder are still around.
Have this kind? You used to have it personally, though.
I don't have that particular cage, but I was using that same idea in my 6-footers because I built them up and put tubs underneath on slides so they could go down in there like that. And it was really fun to do it. But after a while, I ran out of space and I had to forego the tubs, and so I plugged up the holes. And it's really
I would love.
Cool thing.
I don't know. You know, a bow file. I guess he still does it, where you could just do like, what did he call it? Like he just would run pipes all over the place or whatever. Yeah. You could just order a pipe on this side or a pipe below.
Right.
I just it just needs to be a standard thing. Like you can have a pipe down, you can have a pipe to the side, and then there's a really good snake proof closure.
Yes.
All the time. Everywhere you go. And so you can be like, okay, boy and girl time. Okay. They can have a side pipe if they want to visit each other, or if not, that's fine. Or whatever.
Yeah.
Because it's just, I don't know. It seems like good animal care. if you have the space for it. They like them a lot. What's up, Jamie? You know what this looks like? Can I say something blasphemous?
Sure. A
blackhead and yellow belly ball python with the orange fade.
Yeah.
Is that
no.
Is that weird to say?
It's not really, because that's what we're familiar with, right? We know how to do those terms from the ball pythons and things. And honestly, the ball pythons have helped me a lot in determining color pattern and other traits that snakes get. Blackheads can do the same thing, I think.
That would be cool.
It just, the situation is that I kind of feel like we're right on the cutting edge or the cusp of finding that blackheads can really produce some interesting morphs. We've seen it with the albino. We've seen it with the hypo. We've seen it with the axanthic. This year I started breeding for color. So in my Swiss line group, I have some really cool colors. I have a pair of their banding is so dark and so black that they look like tigers. And there's 2 of them in there that I held back a long time ago, and I tried breeding those together this year, and they didn't seem like they were going to work. I have other ones that are super red. Their bandings are red, really red. I bred them together this year. Got 6 eggs. Hopefully they hatch. See what happens. But I think there's just things going on out there that, you know, we're slower in the blackhead world than the ball python world is, because not many people have blackheads, and there's not that much genetic heterogeneity, you know, out there in the world. And so we're limited to this really small group of animals.
Right. So a lot of people just buy a pair and just hope for the best. But there's definitely, like, I don't know. I can imagine like dark black on orange, dark black on yellow, dark black on red.
Yeah.
Red on red. You could, there's enough colors there that you could like start to selectively breed whatever direction.
That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah. I'm in.
That's what keeps me going.
All right. Are they face eaters? Like a hungry female, if you have her in like a cage above your head, do they come down and eat your face? That's like my only final question.
So, like I said before, they have a really tremendous feeding response. Okay. And you have to be careful when you open their cage up. If you open their cage up, slide that glass, they're in there. As soon as they hear that glass sliding, they think it's feeding time. They're like, what's going on there? And it's like, you know, so you have to be.
Do they respect like hook training if you do it enough?
Some people have asked that. I don't know though. I've tried that, and they just
like spray and pray with rats. You're like, here.
They try to eat the hook. Yeah.
They try to eat the hook.
Yeah. And so basically the thing is, you just have to really be careful with them, and you know, when the best time to change their water bowl is when they have a rat in their mouth.
That's true for boas too, to be honest.
Safest time to do it. And so you have to coordinate and just think safety the whole time, because black-headed pythons have very strong jaw pressure, and you know it's are
they like a slashing bite, or are they like do they like bite and just do they ever like do the slash bite thing, or do they just bite and coil?
They just if you reach your hand in there and it's warm and they think it's feeding time, they think it's a rat. And they're just gonna bite and hold on and try to drag and swallow you whole.
All right.
But
oh my God, can I tell you a dumb story? Last night I was feeding boas, and for the first time, a boa like slashed while eating a pre-killed rat and actually disemboweled it. And I'm like, I didn't think a boa could do that. And then I'm like, I'm a little scared now. Yeah. Like I've never seen it bite and slash sideways and then all the guts come out of a pre-kill, not like an exploded, like over defrosted. And I'm like, you need to have more respect. Yeah. So I am all about the respect today.
One of the things I always tell people who buy blackheads, or you know, I try to warn them that, you know, the only reason people get bit is because it's their own fault. They're not watching out, and you know, you have to be careful. And you know, I have a pair of welding gloves that come out up here to here. Mm-hmm. And if I have to pull a snake out to clean its cage or something like that, normally I can reach in there and, you know, you just reach in there and grab them and make sure they have a place to go, but you grab them and stick them in the other cage or whatever, in some box or whatever, you clean their cage and pick them up, put them back. I wear a welding glove just in case, you know, because I don't want to get bit. And it's not that they're biting. Once you get them out, they're fine. You can handle them. You can't walk around around your neck and all that stuff, but you can hold them. And you've seen me on some of my pictures and on Instagram, you know, holding snakes up like that and all that. Once they're out, they're fine. It's just that you gotta tell them that you basically have to make sure that they don't think you're food or it's a feeding response. So. Yeah, there's a safety issue there, but you know,
Texas is kind of like Australia. Have you ever thought about keeping them outside?
I've thought about it. I wish I had the property to do it, but I live in, you know, kind of a subdivision, and you know,
bummer.
If I lived out in a
compound,
I would do it. You know, have these big fences, fenced-in enclosures, and it's a great.
I'm looking at them on the sand. I don't know where this is, but it's probably somewhere.
That was behind my house. They were digging out some big old detention ponds, and one day I went back there and I just took my camera and I took these big snakes and put them in bags. And as soon as you drop them out of the bag. You better have your camera ready. And I just was right there leaning down on them, and I snapped those pictures.
Yeah, but they look good. They look like
Yeah.
they're supposed to be there, or
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
you dig a little
And-
hidey hole. I don't know. It would be a fun thing because I've been thinking, you know, like it. People have like tropical stuff closer to Houston area, but like we have a big ass desert, scrub land.
Yeah.
We could run Australian stuff
Sure.
in a lot of parts of Texas,
Absolutely,
and even here in
yeah.
Western Oklahoma.
Yeah, West Texas. Yeah,
Mhm.
sure.
And there's no neighbors. It's just a bunch of cows, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Just don't let them get loose. Is all.
Yeah. But you know, I think if you love reptiles and you love snakes, you know, it was always my holy grail to get a blackhead.
Mhm.
And once I got them, I was just hooked. And I think pretty much everybody that gets them gets hooked because they're fun, they're interesting, they're different, and you know, they're beautiful and they're rare
And worth taking care of, like
they're
value
worth taking the
wise.
time to work with.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not something that you know, is going to turn out to be super muddy or you're not going to care about. I mean, you can get one.
I like that they're big king snakes. That
They
part
are.
is really fun.
Yeah, it really is. They're the best. I love
All right, if somebody's ready to buy, where can they message you to ask about inventory?
So basically, you can get to me from my website. There's
Mhm.
little email things in there. There's 3 ways to go that way. You can contact me on Instagram, is usually good, or let's see what else. I have a Facebook page, but it's more personal than anything. But you could always message me on Facebook. One time, I just about missed a sale because someone contacted me on Facebook, and I never really go there that much, and it was a good sale, and I'm glad I caught it.
Oh, no.
But normally, the best way to get me is through the website. My phone number's on the website. If you want to call me or text me, that's good too. That's pretty much it.
SplitRockReptile.com is
Yes.
the website. And there's nothing on Morph Market right now, but you have some availability.
What's that?
But you have some available, even though they're not on Morph Market.
I have some available right now. They're Paucidae xanthic males. They're like 2020s, 2021s. I just recently sold a huge amount of blackheads to an individual, and so my inventory is really low right now.
Oh, okay. And then what's your next show that someone could meet you at to talk about blackheads?
My next show is going to be the Conroe, Texas show, and that's a herp show, and that's going to be in June, sometime in June.
Is that a good show?
Yeah, I like it.
Which show should I stop
well-attended.
doing, and which one should I do?
You should
I
do
keep-
Conroe. Conroe's
Yeah, I've
fun.
heard Conroe's good and Slidell's good, and I'm like,
Yeah.
those are far away, but I would do them if I was like guaranteed something. You know what
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it is the market's been kind of nasty lately, right? I mean, the last couple of years, I used to do really well at Conroe, and then just in the past, I don't know, some of the shows are just people just aren't buying right now, or you know,
Right, they don't have money for like 10 extra pets. Maybe
right,
like
exactly.
maybe
think
like
it's
some
changing.
feeders for the pets they already have.
Yeah, it's changing. It's changing. I think it's coming back, but it's I think Conroe has a good attendance. It's a great setup. It's good facility, and you know, it's a great place. So I would recommend you come if you can.
Maybe I'll get on the wait list. I really need Slowinski eye this year. So if you see any scent, just mail them to me.
Guess what? I want to tell you a quick story. I haven't told you this yet. So there's a guy named Rob Clockman, and he lives in College Station. And somebody set me up with him years ago to take me around herping out that way because, you know, they had supposedly these Kisatchie corns, Slowinski, and I had read up on that whole thing, and I said, man, I am going to go get me a Slowinski. I'm going to find one. And I went out there. It's about hour and 30 minutes away from my house. And I went out there like every weekend for like a month cruising, at night, and finally one day I went out one night. It was Memorial Day weekend. I went out there with a friend and we were cruising. There's a big old Slowinski right on the road. And I stopped. I got her, picked her up. She was gravid. 2 weeks later, I had like 12 or 14.
You're like, now I have a million.
I like those animals. They're pretty cool. But you have the silverleaf, right?
Yeah. And my stock, but I think my stock is inbred. I'm going to be honest. So I would like wild caught from where they were, or approximately where they were, which is like that area of Texas.
Yeah.
To outcross just the morph.
If I find one and someone finds one, and I can maybe ask them to save it and get it to you.
Right, either gender too, because I can outcross.
You just need a wild caught Slowinski eye.
Yeah, and ideally, if I could have a pair, that'd be cool because I could sell the county, the pure county. Yeah. But
Grimes County, it was.
Mm-hmm. That would be awesome for the whole hobby, because I think there's not that many in the hobby anymore, and they're all from the same line, and they're all like sister, brother.
Right.
It's like Alabama all the whole time. And it doesn't really need to be, because we can just go, it's legal to collect them,
Yeah. And it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
That was my best field herping experience ever.
Yeah, because she was gravid.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we stay in this region when he's done the Air Force, I want to move to Texas because I think it has better herping in general.
Yeah.
Sorry, Oklahoma. Just like, because you get a full gambit of like habitat across the range.
Yeah.
And you get a little bit of desert weirdness over the side that Oklahoma doesn't quite get.
Yeah. I have a friend, he lives just north of here, and he's a Blackhead guy, and I said to him, I wanted to compare notes with him on some of my hatching and incubation techniques. I said, this is today. I texted him. I said, are you available for lunch tomorrow? And he goes, no. He goes, I have a friend coming in from the UK, and I'm going to go to West Texas herping with him. We're going to be good looking for gray bands and, all that other stuff they get out there. And I said, good luck. I mean, now's the time to go because the rains, and it helps a lot with the gray bands.
Do I have to go this weekend?
Oh,
God. Jennifer. I just did like a long drive, so I have to like recover. But now is the time to go.
Now's the time to go. I've never been looking for gray band kings, and I'd really like to go. But
maybe you just get a party bus.
Yeah, absolutely.
Meet up, then drive the party bus.
Yep, herp all night and sleep all day.
Oh, yeah. All right, perfect. All right, thank you for coming on. It was really fun.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Hopefully you sell lots of blackheads after this.
Thank you.
All right, next week we're having Emma on, who's going to talk about the Flora Fauna Conference in New York. I don't know what day yet, though. But otherwise, check out Jim, Warp Market, Instagram, Facebook. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, chat. Thank you for the super chats we had earlier. Adrian, Jennifer, and Emma. All right. See you later, everybody. Bye. See you next week.